So not used to the bot commands being up at the top, since they're like way down somewhere in the middle on my server.
We can move it.
No, it's not a complaint. It's just an acknowledgement that every time I look for it, I'm like looking in the wrong spot. All right, I am going to start the music. Wait, I have to turn the volume up, otherwise it doesn't record right. This is the Player 4 Podcast. Join us each week as we talk about video games, entertainment, and pop culture, and bring in guests from the Rooster Teeth community. Player 4 has entered the game. Hello and welcome to the Player 4 Podcast. I'm your host, Tristan, aka Shagrazier.
And I'm your second host, Alex, aka Chaos Black 21.
Hey, last time I did the AKA, you said we weren't doing AKAs.
I said that we're not doing AKAs on the RT site anymore because that's not relevant. We might need to do a new opening.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
I'm Joseph, AKA the Dungeon Master for, what is it, Tales? What is it? Valenaria Chronicles, that's it. That's what my thing is called.
I have such faith in you. We could start introducing ourselves that way, actually. Oh, yeah. I am Tristan, aka Shakrazier, the Dungeon Master for Everybody Loves Riken.
I'm Alex, aka Riken / I'm not going to say the name of my new character yet for Valenaria because it's a secret.
It's a secret.
Or he doesn't know it.
I do know it. I have it. I just picked it out.
No, he said he found it just now.
It's a pretty awesome name.
Alright, I think we mentioned it last time. We may even have given it a full topic or whatnot, but I think that until we've done this a few times, we should just remind everybody our new plan going forward. So, Joseph, since you are the flagship man on this, describe what our new direction is.
Okay. Well, you may have noticed just over a year ago, Tristan's podcast he's been doing for a while. No, D&D game that he's been doing for a while. Everybody Loves Riken. It is being live streamed and has its own little following and has been on Twitch and on YouTube. And then recently, Derek was working on his own game that has been added to the roster on our Twitch. Mystic, I'm not currently looking for players, but I will let you know. How about that? And then I had a game in the works that I just wasn't pursuing because I was teaching online and really busy with that. But yes, we are adding a third campaign to the roster on our Twitch and YouTube. This is called Valenaria Chronicles, which is based off of my own homebrew D&D world that has been my home sweet home for a while now. And I'm excited. It is on Thursday evenings, 7:15 p.m. Central Time. I did specify p.m. because people ask for some reason. And I'm excited because we've got Tristan, we got Alex, Bree, Derek. Derek is also in it. So we got both DMs, and Alex is in all three games. And then we also have my good friend Logan, who has not been on the podcast ever, but I've known him for a very long time. He's my own Malachi, basically.
Alex actually isn't in Sodus.
Oh, okay, that's right. He's not, but he's in two other games, and he is the namesake of one of them.
He is. If he dies, we're gonna have to change the name.
Everybody loved Riken. All you have to do is change the tense.
So I was watching one of the old videos that you made. That's like Everybody Loves Riken with a date after it. And I discovered I created the name Everybody Loves Riken. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, as I had said, there were several sessions of Everybody Loves Riken before it had a name where people would just crack jokes in the sidebar chat on Skype, where they would just take names of movies and TV shows and stick Riken's name into them, like Mission Riken or Riken Impossible kind of thing, because Riken was a character who was just very often causing things to happen. Not necessarily trouble, but sometimes trouble. So his name was synonymous with things happening. So he got to be the butt of those jokes. And when I started pressing people, like, we should really come up with some way to refer to this, because I want to start broadcasting at some point, or I want to be able to broadcast, and you guys really should have a name for yourselves. I got a lot of, we don't know, we don't care kind of stuff back. So I said, if you don't pick something, I'm going to pick something and you're going to be stuck with it. And I got more, we don't know, we don't care. So I said, all right, fine. And I went back to those old chats because they made me laugh, and I just found the one that made me laugh the most. I liked the reference. It was a very easy parallel to draw to Everybody Loves Raymond. And it was just like, perfect. Everybody Loves Riken.
That session was pretty great, reading the chat, because you spent a lot of the time looking at initiative.
Yeah.
And you would scroll through and see the entire group has been naming shows and movies after Riken.
I needed, and so luckily, like, now that I'm broadcasting, I can keep the initiative on on the actual screen, and I don't have, so I can pay a little bit more attention to the chat. But I gotta be honest, not a lot's changed since back then. I don't have the brain power to go through all the jokes they're cracking while I'm DMing, so it's usually some of the players will stick around simply to listen to me comment on all of the chat that I am only just now seeing that has been going on for the last 3 hours.
So all of this comes around to the change of format for the podcast, because when we created this podcast, the idea was we wanted to talk about things that are going on in the world of pop culture, talk about new games, talk about shows, talk about movies, do spoiler cast and all of that. And while our interests haven't necessarily changed, we're at a point where even before this change that we're making, we weren't really forcing topics anymore. We were just talking about whatever was exciting to us. If that was me walking at the park, then we get 2 episodes in a row named after it. At Tristan.
What? I don't know what you're talking about. That wasn't me. You must have been talking to somebody else in the park.
No, at Tristan. I was subtweeting you as the one naming 2 episodes after me walking at the park.
Oh, I did. Definitely did that. Joseph the park walking man.
So Tristan and I had a conversation, since we're the creative minds behind the project, and decided that if we're at a point, hi Sarah, I'm on a podcast right now. Okay.
Attack of the Children.
Why don't you get your phone and then go play, because I'm on a podcast right now. I listened to the only D&D session that you recorded, Tristan, that I was in. And there was like several parts where the kids kept walking into the room. And that was years ago.
Yep, 2017.
Anyway, Tristan and I talked, and we were realizing that we're not really forcing it anymore with the podcast, trying to be current. And this is what happened at Comic-Con, and here's what happened at PAX, and then here's this new game that's coming out. Then we might as well shift gears a little bit, because a lot of our friends that are involved in our content and engage in our content are D&D related. So we figured, what if we shift gears just a little bit, and we'll talk about whatever we're excited about, like Malachi's playing a new game, or I've discovered a game that everyone discovered 10 years ago, that sort of thing. But then the rest of it is, we're often bringing on people to the podcast that are in one of our 3 D&D games.
I think
so
that's
maybe
a good idea.
1 week we've got this person and we do a table read with them, or 1 week we got this person and they really want to talk about this important event that just happened in a campaign to their character. So we spend the whole time talking about how the story has affected their character and their character's growth, or something like that.
Yeah, and then we put them on the spot and be like, I'm a good DM, right? Right, yeah. Alex?
Or we talk about, like, this
fuck you, Alex!
Comes up, so everyone's like, hey, Tristan, that was really cool what you did with that story arc, or just all kinds of different topics we can talk about. And I do acknowledge, and I don't even know if the people who said this listen to the podcast anymore, but I do remember when we first started incorporating D&D talk into the podcast, there was a bit of pushback of, well, I don't know what they're talking about. But if you are one of those people, you're really missing out, honestly. Like, you are seriously missing out if you're not at least listening to one of our campaigns. There's something for everyone, depending on which one you want to listen to. So as we go through today's episode and talk about the state of the different campaigns, Tristan's long-running campaign, Derek's one that is still fledgling but has been going for a while, and mine that just started. Maybe you'll decide, I like this, I like this, I like this, and you'll choose if you want to listen to one, two, or all three of them on YouTube, or even while they're being streamed. So, Tristan, I propose that as we talk about each one, we say when it's being streamed.
That sounds like a good idea to me. Which
Yeah.
one do you want to start with? I have Sodus first, because that's what happened after the rearrange of topics.
Sure. Okay.
Alright, we will stick with the topics as listed. So, we don't have Derek here, unless you want me to try and get him in here.
Sure, if you want to.
Okay, let me ping him. That wasn't on the plan. Let's see here.
We could drag him into the chat, or we could save him for last and bring him in then.
Oh, that could work best. Let's see if he responds.
We are improvising.
Oh yeah, we're doing it live.
Yeah, get him primed, and then we'll pull him in, and he'll be the third one we talk about.
All right, I sent a message. Oh, he says yes.
Okay, pull him in if you want to.
Okay, all we gotta do is move to the public channel, I think.
Well, we could pull him into the channel, or we could move to the public channel.
Oh, that's a good point. I can pull him in, can't I? Okay, I'll let him know to...
Oh, Malachi!
Malachi!
Suki Kiba.
Oh,
How you doing, Malachi?
tired.
Oh yeah? How's work going? How's your sunburns?
Sunburns are getting better.
Sunburns.
Skin's bubbling.
Ugh, gross.
Oh.
You're not yet at the peely stage.
No,
Ugh.
someone had some liquid underneath it, which is kind of interesting.
It's not liquids, it's pus.
Ugh.
No, pus is usually white, more just clear.
Yeah, it's water that's leaching out of the new skin underneath.
Ugh.
In any event, I'm glad you could join us. We are talking about D&D games because that is what we're going to be doing with the podcast mostly going forward. Talk about storylines going on, character interactions and developments and things like that. And
Gross. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's going to be basically a mix between what we do right now, which is Malachi's playing a new game, or we're watching this new show, and basically like the Talking Dead equivalent of our D&D games.
Derek has appeared. I can move him over now and we can start with Sodus.
Let's do it live.
Alright, we're doing it live. Ooh. Welcome
Hello.
our first guest, Derek. DM of Stories of the Unbound Shores.
Hi.
Tell us about your game and what you have been doing, like what the story has been and what you're hoping it will become
Yeah, we're putting you on the spot right now.
right now.
Alright. Well, what's been so far is a story of a band of people that don't have a lot in common, being bound together with a common purpose to, at the moment, deal with a death knight that seems to be after them, or at least the nobles in their group, to which some are sworn to protect and others are doing it kind of out of the kindness of their heart, along with being kind of bound by this prophecy that was brought up.
Oh,
So,
Joseph, do you know what a
the hope-
Death Knight is?
Oh, after you.
I know what they are on World of Warcraft.
Alex, have you heard of a Death Knight?
No, not in the D&D sense.
Alright, Malachi, I know you've played more 3.5. Do you know what a Death Knight is?
I really haven't ran into too many. I don't really recall them very well. I remember. No, I'm just gonna say no.
Death Knights, I'll break out and describe this just to keep everybody on the same page for you, Derek, and then we can jump back into what you're hoping the story will become. Death Knights are kind of a classic D&D undead monster. They were very often formerly clerics or paladins who have so completely violated their oath that in death they are not allowed to die, and they continue to haunt the world and commit heinous crimes until they can reconcile the broken oath and atone for it, and that is when they are allowed to finally die. They are very powerful, magic-casting, intelligent undead.
Oh, snap.
One of the few ways to become an undead without signing a pact with either Vecna or Orcus, or having someone else come along and resurrect you.
Necromancers.
Yeah.
And so that's what the party is dealing with at the moment, is they have become aware of a Death Knight and are trying to figure out how to make it stop existing.
Yes. You came across one when it had been severely injured and were able to finish it off, but are now kind of dealing with the fallout from the destruction of the village in which you found it and the lone survivor, to trying to figure out what to do with what's left of the Death Knight, knowing that it will come back somehow, but not necessarily how, where, or when.
Yeah. And so the quick lead up on that is that this Death Knight seems to be in some way involved in a plot to undermine one of the noble families of the Northern Kingdom, or Central Kingdom, and one of the heirs to this noble family is part of the party, so we are trying to help them stop this plot against their family, and in the course of doing that, we have come up against this Death Knight who, when we discovered them, were destroying a town in retaliation for the failure of one of its underlings.
Yes, as it has shown to be a follower of Tiamat, even on death. It's a rather spiteful undead.
I like the word vindictive.
That is a better word, I just hadn't thought of it.
A meanie head.
It's a meanie head.
Indeed.
Poopy head.
And so then the wider world will open up in some manner if we can, or in the course of trying to solve this undead problem.
Sorry, my brain jumbled that sentence.
We'll get to do lots of heroic things in disparate places.
Yes, that is the goal, to have it kind of be a traveling and heroic campaign, as I do kind of want to move you guys around the world a bit, and so I can have an easier time fleshing it out and kind of making it my own, as that's the most fun part for myself as a DM.
You seem to be very much enjoying building maps in Incarnate.
Yeah, I've been doing that, trying to give you guys things you can work with, because I also like to have it being because I like the terrain being able to be an important feature of combat, so you can actually take cover or have, height advantages or disadvantages. Things where positioning can matter somewhat, even though it doesn't typically in 5th edition.
Yeah, tough in 5th Ed. They've tried to make it map agnostic.
Yes. Yes, they have.
Well, I've been having a fun time.
Glad to hear that. I'm hoping to go over the recordings this week and see if I can brush up on the mistakes I've made so as to avoid them in the future.
How many people are in this campaign?
6. There is Tristan, Ash, Thomas, Nicole, Kyla, Sam. Yeah, I knew I was forgetting one. Just can't remember which one.
Yep. It's an interesting party.
Yep.
We're only maybe going to kill each other.
Yeah.
Only maybe.
Only maybe.
I'm working here, but I am new to this. This is my first campaign to DM. So
I meant the characters.
I know, but but that's still kind of my job to give you guys reasons to work together. So just saying, like, I can. No, it's been a little bumpy, but I think there's been improvement, and I think there'll be more so to come.
I'm excited for all of the problems my character and Sam's character are going to have with each other now that they've both sworn their oaths.
Yeah,
Oh,
that should be
do they
fun.
clash a bit?
They are both paladins of Bahamut, but one is a paladin of devotion and the other one is a paladin of vengeance.
Oh man, 2 paladins.
Yeah, and
Jeez.
they worship the same god, but they worship him in very different ways.
Oh no.
With 2 paladins in the group, I have to level 6 to get you guys to fail saving throws. After that, all bets are off.
I mean, I don't know. We might both be charisma heavy. I know that I have a 16 in it. I don't remember if Sam does.
Yeah, but even if he only has like a 14 or even a 12, it's still a +4 to everyone, near you two.
Oh, we stack, huh?
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
So, as we close out with the Stories of Unbound Shores blurb here, preview, I've got 2 questions for the DM. First question is, what would you say is the overall feel of the campaign from the perspective of someone listening to it?
I'm honestly not quite sure. I don't tend to think like that. Overall feel. I mean,
And Tristan might be able to answer since he's not the DM, so he's got a different perspective.
It's been kind of it started as kind of a whodunit mystery, and then it went into a political intrigue thing as we tried to uncover after we figured out who done it, who had put them up to it, and why. So it's been I would say that it was started whodunit and with a lot of pointing fingers and like the characters being distrustful of one another, and then finally figuring out who was responsible, and then try the mystery of who was putting them up to it and what the stakes were beyond that. After that, I would say it's been a lot of the characters kind of stepping outside of the personal bubbles they put around their lives to try and understand each other, or at least some of the characters doing that, while other characters are trying very hard to maintain those bubbles.
it has resulted in some interesting dynamics.
So my second question is, if someone wants to catch the stream, because obviously all of these are found on the YouTube channel, that if you're on YouTube right now, then you know where it is, but it's you search for Player 4 Podcast on YouTube, you can find it. What time does the stream happen and what day?
It is Sundays at 2 p.m. Central Time, of course, on the P4 Podcast channel, over on Twitch.
P4 Podcast on Twitch. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube but want to catch it on Twitch. Now, I think it's time to transition to the next one. I don't know which one the next one is, though.
I think that we should do Valenaria next, just so we don't run out of time for it, because there's so much to say about ELR. I'd rather that get cut off than Valenaria.
Right. And if we need to abbreviate ELR, we could talk about maybe the initiative you and I are trying to undertake with ELR.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good thing to mention first, yeah.
Yes, the new campaign, Valenaria, is actually, it's in a world that I've been building ever since I started as a DM, which was a long time ago. And it started off as a village, and then another village, and another village, and then a town, and a city. And then I had a region map, and then a larger region map, and then the better part of a continental map, and then from there, lots of tweaking, lots of growing, lots of changing things until it looks like it does now. But it did not have a name, so I ended up naming the world originally after a notable location, just like the campaign Tristan's doing is named after a character. I had my first big campaign was a two-parter with kind of a pre-built story that the players could choose how they wanted to interact with it, and they had a lot of pull in how things progressed. So originally it was just called Lanier, which is the name of a school that is founded at some point in the history of the world. Well, as I was preparing for this campaign on Twitch, I realized, well, I've got some things I need to do, and one of them is name it. So I got on Incarnate, which is the tool house that Derek likes to use as well. I've used various other means of making maps, but this is something I really enjoyed using. So I wanted to make a map that looked as fancy as the one Tristan had. I tweaked some things, I moved some things around, and I was really happy with the results. I was able to fix the scale because originally the map I made on a different website was not the right scale that I wanted. It was not difficult to travel from one end of the continent to the other in just like 2 weeks, basically. So I fixed the scale on it, and I moved some things around, and I gave it a name, Valenaria, which is the name of the continent, because the campaigns have never gotten off the continent except for a brief sea voyage along the coastline. So the world currently is called Valenaria because that's what the continent is called. So here's the thing, though. If I'm going to do this big ol', streamed campaign for as long as people want to be involved, then I need to shake things up, because I've been doing adventures in this world for so long. What makes it fresh and interesting for the people who have never experienced it? For example, the D&D Twitter thing that I do is in this world. So we're actually we're backtracking in the world and going back to a different time entirely. So the landscape is very similar, but the cities are different to some degree. The different societies are different. So then we can sort of learn new things about this world together, as opposed to just take my word for it. That's where that village is, and that's what those people are like, and there's nothing really for anyone to learn that's interesting and unique and exciting. So I'm actually having to learn things about this world from scratch. So where we are in the campaign, where it starts, is there was at some point somewhere in the 100 to 200 years ago range, there was this kingdom that randomly just stopped existing. And most people don't know much about what happened, but basically when that happened, the calendar that had been established started over on the years, basically. So you will see on the streams what year it is, and that is basically, as far as anyone can tell, the years since someone said, "Hey, we need to reset the years."
Do it over.
Yeah. So it could have been when the kingdom just ceased to exist, or it could have been sometime after that, but we are somewhere around the 200 years ago range. But the world is coming out of a dark age, so there's a lot to be done by heroes. There's a lot of things that heroes are needed for at this time. So, needless to say, our heroes of the campaign are going to become very important as we progress through the story.
I'm gonna get a statue named after me.
Maybe you will. There's plenty of room. It may not seem like it. There's plenty of room to affect the world in ways that affect future campaigns. And I may even find ways to give nods to the campaign in my D&D Twitter. Like maybe if we end up with a statue named after your rogue, maybe they see it in the Twitter D&D campaign.
If you get a statue, my character is going to get a whole forest named after them.
Why not?
You're on. This is now
So,
unhealthy competition.
I'll start off by saying
I'm getting a
what
cog.
the overall feel of the campaign will be, and then I'll give a brief synopsis of what happened in episode 1 and what to expect from the next few weeks. So the overall feel of the campaign is each character has some reason why they are wanting to travel great distances, and they're willing to take the time it takes to travel lengthy journey and perhaps even build their entire career around traveling from region to region. And also, each character has baked into it some reason why they are going to help those in need. And the idea is that the world is coming out of a dark age at this point because of whatever it was that happened before, where suddenly this blanket of, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the Roman Empire has just fallen overnight, and most people don't even know much about it or why it left or anything. But it's a lot less of a safe world at this point, and they're coming out of this dark age. They're learning more. They're starting to build a society again, and heroes are needed now more than ever because the society there's people who would benefit from society not rebuilding, for example, in the first adventure that we've had. So now we head towards the first episode, which I'm giving the episode's names. The first episode was called The Odd Couple, and we had Derek and Tristan. Derek playing the Paladin of Cord, and Tristan playing the young and how do we describe him? Young and quirky, I suppose. Rogue.
He's definitely quirky. Quirky's a word for it. He is eccentric.
That's it. He's eccentric.
He has determined independently that Rook is obviously a code name, and if that guy gets to have a code name, then dadgummit, he's gonna have one too. But he's gonna have a new one every day, and every new code name comes with a new accent.
I did notice. Gina and I were listening to it today because I had to take her to a city about 25 minutes away, and she was laughing at how randomly you had Foghorn Leghorn's accent.
Yeah, and I named that code name was Bullhorn.
Yes, I did notice that. I didn't notice it during the adventure, but I noticed it while listening to it. Wait, he said Bullhorn.
Yeah.
So the adventure, we had I tried to build my opening adventures to the characters. So we have a rogue who is wanting he's wanting an avenue to gain wealth in whatever means he deems necessary to bring money to the elderly human couple who spent most of their natural lives raising an elf to maturity. And then we have a paladin who is chaotic because they can be sometimes, and he's not opposed to breaking the law if it helps people who are in need, and is also trying to show this rogue how to be a good member of society and learn the good ways of Cord. So I designed an opening adventure with plenty of wiggle room for the characters and for Derek and Tristan to shake things up, which has already happened, where there are people who are misbehaving, mistreating people, and the law is unable to touch them because of diplomatic immunity. So we're in a situation where Tristan's character has decided to pursue what episode 3 is going to be called Diplomacy of the Pockets and steal their paperwork so they can be arrested for any amount of the things that they've been doing.
I don't think that it's possible for me to be involved in a game and not be a character that shakes things up and comes up with catchphrases.
Oh God.
Well, it'll work out. There's plenty of room in my campaign, in the campaigns that I run, where even if it seems like I've got a story I've planned out, that the players have plenty of wiggle room to shake things up and change the angle of where things are going, or maybe take a random NPC and now he's their best friend, or any amount of things. And while I had a general idea of where I was going to go, which was engineer a situation where the paladin would be okay with thievery, a lot of the particulars were sort of come up with on the spur of the moment based off of how you guys reacted.
Mm-hmm.
So the overall feel of the campaign is a lot of room for character growth and a lot of room for humor. So the humor that they bring in their role play and the humor of the campaign and little moments like, would you believe me if I said that I'm one job away from retirement? Things like that. So you can look forward to that style of a campaign. Quirky characters, interesting NPCs, really unique situations they'll find themselves in, such as diplomatic immunity on a group of brigands going around terrorizing the Badlands.
I'm excited for my character to be Alex's character because I just know I'm going to rub Alex the wrong way.
That's something I'm really looking forward to because we've got these characters that are being fleshed out, and they're going to meet each other in small groups and eventually come together at the end of the first story arc. And that way, it's not one of those. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. It worked for Tristan's campaign because they were all at the festival,
Mm-hmm.
so they had something in common. But some campaigns is we just killed 2 goblins. Now we're best friends. Let's spend the rest of our lives traveling the world. And I wanted to go for something where we've got 2 characters that know each other and 2 other characters that know each other, and then Logan's Bard, and then they're going to eventually meet and then have to do something that then makes them grow in trust and bond with each other.
Inseparable. Don't worry, Alex. I will be your new Kubriel.
Oh no!
Lovely. I can't wait.
So this stream happens at 7:15 Central Time in the evening on Thursdays, and it's also on YouTube. It is called Valenaria Chronicles. There is a lot that I've got planned that's going to be really interesting later down the road, and a lot that I'm going to see what everyone does and react accordingly. So now we move on to Tristan's campaign, which we've talked about a lot. So Tristan, I want to know what is the exciting stuff going on in your campaign, and what's the project that you and I are working on that everyone else should be excited for?
All right. Well, I think I can probably get both of these in a pretty short and sweet little blurb. The exciting stuff going on in my campaign right now is, first and foremost, a new thing that I generally don't do as a DM, which is downtime. I tend to be more involved in the day-to-day, moment-to-moment happenings of the players, very interested in the moral decisions and the individual interactions of their lives, because I want to know who these people are. But with what's going on right now, as the party is trying to be proponents of a new moral compass, as they try to convince this city to be the first in this experiment of accepting drow from the Underdark who wish to turn away from Lolth inside their walls and raising them as new citizens. That is something that is going to take time and campaigning and individual working with people, and it's going to get really repetitive. So I said, why don't we do some skill challenge type roles to figure out how well that goes, and we'll treat it as downtime, and this is what you'll be doing with that every day. Here's a second thing you can do, because they know the next thing they want to do is go into the Underdark to find the lost artifacts of Bahamut, which were stolen during the scourging of Arcosia. So the NPCs came to them and said, you plan to go into the Underdark, does any of you speak Undercommon? The party said, no, we don't. They said, well, we've got all these drow here who want to live in the city, and you're helping them to do that. They're all willing to help you learn Undercommon so that you can do the next thing on your list. So it's going to take them at least a week and a half to get enough lessons in Undercommon, just cram this into their heads to be able to get through a conversation in the Underdark. So that's why they're kind of stuck in one place doing that, aside from still campaigning to get the people of the city on board. So that's what's going on now, is that they're making preparations to go into the Underdark to find the relics of Bahamut, and they're trying to get this town to not fall apart in the wake of the death of its leader, and in the wake of the coming of the Drow, who just want to be considered citizens. So that's very interesting.
That. I really, really like the idea of the Drow being integrated into society and having to learn a new language in campaign.
Yeah. So it's really far outside of my normal the way I do things. So it's very interesting the way this is shaping up, and I think that overall it's going pretty okay.
I got a question.
Yo.
Is there an owl that could help them all learn Underdark?
Like Hoot
And then
Hoot?
maybe if they get to the end of the day and they haven't learned any Underdark, then it pesters them.
Duolingo. They unfortunately no, I didn't think to do something like that, but they do have about 100 Drow former soldiers, former captive soldiers, who are interested in helping them learn. So they're going to be able to do full immersion.
Oh, Rosetta Stone then.
Yeah, basically. It's happening in
The nice lady.
Lightstone Keep, so
Mhm.
it's Rosetta Lightstone.
What is that, a Lightstone?
But yeah, so it's going to be interesting. So that's what we just went over in the last session was what are you doing, outside you have time for extracurriculars, during the day your characters are going out and campaigning as a party to talk to the people, to talk to the drow, to get them to help get them to integrate. And then after that, you're going to be doing, immersion language lessons in Undercommon with the drow. So that still leaves you a section of the day that you can use for personal betterment. And so they said, well, I want to go and do more individualized campaigning. I want to go and see to the youth of the city. I want to go and personally train myself. I need to go to the Temple of Cord and make sure that I am, getting the word of Cord out now that I'm the champion kind of thing. So I was able to say, okay, to do those things, you're going to be like really practicing these skills, so you can also gain proficiency in these skills. You're going to be really flexing your muscles all day long, Riken, without stop. So you're going to go up in Constitution because to be flexing that long, you're going to need it.
Okay, so in the way of story and overall feel, yours has been all over the place and different emotions and events, but anyone wanting to listen now and hasn't been before, that's what they can look forward to, and that's a really, really unique storyline.
Yeah, I'm trying to handle it carefully and delicately because this is a racism bad kind of storyline, but we're trying to maintain the fantasy world framing without doing a disservice to the real world issues.
Yes. There's also a bit of a real world aspect to it, which is they have downtime in which they don't really have a choice about the fact that there is downtime because there's something that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So, aka quarantine. And then during that time, they're learning a new language and trying to better themselves in other ways.
I hadn't thought of that, but that's true. Theirs is going to be a lot shorter quarantine than ours. And then, so moving on from that, the thing that we wanted to do as a side project was I've been trying to consolidate into a single document everything that has taken place in the campaign over the last 4 years, so that I can write up summary essays of each of the chapters to present as a spoken word recording so that people can know what was going on before we started broadcasting.
And then what's the form of that that's going to take on YouTube so that if someone says, well, I want to watch Everybody Loves Riken, but I don't want to be in the dark about what's happened in episode 1 starts in dungeon, what will this look like when we have a finished product?
A video essay?
Yeah, pretty much, right? Maybe some visual guides, but overall it's you're going to have your notes, you're going to read from them with your epic voice.
I'll try and do some voices for it. Put on my narrator voice.
I would love if it had some elements of the style of presentation of history channels on YouTube. The two that I sent you were Historia Civilis, and then Oversimplified.
Yeah, I still need to look into those because if they use animations and stuff, I can't do that.
Well, they do use animations, but the overall style of presentation which is this is a complicated historical event, but what you need to know about it is these things, might help you because you have a hard time summarizing because this detail is important, this detail is important, this detail, then your outline ends up being an essay.
Yeah, I bulleted it, and it's already 7 pages of bullets.
So I think the idea was, or at least my proposal was, some amounts of recap up until the sessions that you recorded, and then maybe some way to sort of glue those together, and then some amount of recap leading up to episode 1. And then if that goes well and people like that, maybe I could convince you to then, whenever we reach the end of a story, being like the end of a chapter of the campaign that's been streamed, then you could do a recap for that as well.
Yeah, I'll have to look into those, the Historia Civilis and the other one that you sent me so that I can get a better idea of maybe how I can do this and not die.
Oh, I get it, Derek. Bullets. Ammo. Is that like the arrows that you gave Tristan during the campaign?
He might be
'Cause
referring to the...
he didn't have arrows.
I thought he was going to try and refer to the bullets that I had them fight before or during and after the dungeon at the beginning of the broadcast.
Nah, I was just 7 pages of bullets just sound like a lot of ammo.
Yeah, it's 7 pages of bullets. It's a lot of ammo.
Because you got a 7-page outline.
Yeah.
Which definitely warrants some amounts, anywhere from 4 to 20 recap videos that I think are worthy of watching, and that's why I want them, so I can watch them.
Well, I need to, once I have the bullets all laid out and I'm happy with them, I need to start actually writing the essays.
And this could be something exciting for the following that ELR has, which is not to be overlooked. There are people who really enjoy and are invested in the campaign.
I'm very happy to hear that, and I'm always glad that we've got people that are enjoying the story. I only know of a couple myself, but maybe there are others who I haven't met yet. So send me a message, say hey.
Yeah,
let my players know that you're enjoying their characters,
and tell him who you ship.
Yeah,
I ship Malachi and Alex's characters.
Oh, it's great.
That's why they're always angry at each other.
And Tristan always gets them mixed up, too.
I can't. I'm sorry, Malachi.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
No, here's how you know them apart. Alex is the one that you named the campaign after,
Yeah.
and Malachi's is the one you make Dookie jokes about.
I mean, it's true. It doesn't help me in the moment, but that is a good mnemonic. I don't know what it is. My brain. It's like my mother, who could never, like, whenever she would call for one of my brothers, she always called the wrong name first. It's genetic.
The genetics in my family on my mom's side is name someone after their parent.
That's
So,
never going to be confusing.
If I call out Sarah, I usually say Gina first.
Is Gina's middle name Sarah?
No,
Oh.
you when you call them and you say the wrong name, you say the name of the person older than them that they remind you of.
Ah, I see.
So
She's
I
Gina
often
Sarah.
got called Patty, as did my sisters, and then maybe my mom would call one of my cousins accidentally by the name of her sister, who was their parent, and it's just the whole thing. Sometimes Sarah, I say Gina, and then I follow it up with Junior, Gina Junior.
Gina Junior. Gotcha.
Junior.
Malachi.
So I know this is all really important stuff.
Speaking of the shipping thing in the campaigns, I think one of the funniest things, to me, it was that I had done was when the group in ELR finally got to the desert city of Tuca, so that they could prepare to go looking for the Armor of Kord. They ended up meeting with a Dragonborn who was from the same tribe that Malachi's character Yukikaze is from. And she was very friendly, like, was really excited to see Malachi's character and to meet his friends. So everybody in the party started assuming that she had, like, strong feelings for Malachi's character, that they all started shipping them.
I just thought it was fun to tease him with it.
But I mean, other people were seriously shipping them. Like Leah seriously shipped them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I thought it was great because it was very funny. It was fun to watch the players get invested in this, like, meta story that they were making up for themselves. And then just kind of mean was when she agreed to take them to the tribe, since the tribe is nomadic and moves around the desert, but she has a way to find it. They got there, and she immediately introduced the party to her girlfriend. And, like, just all the dreams in the party of this ship being shattered was really funny to me, because I'm a mean, terrible person.
I lost my plaything. I couldn't tease him anymore. He was so mean.
It's so mean, Tristan.
So for anyone,
Oh, we lost Joseph.
No.
Joseph, no.
no, you didn't. I'm here.
Okay, Joseph's
No.
back. So you said
I'm
for
just saying
anyone.
that-
Uh,
I was just saying, for clarity's sake, those events of going to the desert temple for the armor of Cord is directly leading to episode 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
This was this was maybe 4 sessions before they got to the first dungeon, which was the first episode broadcast.
Please include this in the recap.
I mean, of course. The recaps are going to be written. You'll see them written. We can talk about them. I need editing. I need somebody to talk to about this before I record any of it, so...
I have a decent sounding board if you need somebody to talk to.
There's so much story to go over.
I have a nasty cough suddenly.
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 Well, you've got access to my outline so far, Joseph, so...
Yes. I will look at it and let you know what I think if you want me to. I just
Yeah.
want to wait until you've got something you want me to look at.
Well, I wanted to finish the bullets up to, like, where we are, or up to episode 1 anyway, before I started writing the essays. And then I'm going to need the most help on the essays.
So, Malachi, what topic is next?
Oh, I don't know.
It's your favorite topic.
Dookie Kiba.
We now know his favorite topic is Dookie Kiba.
I didn't realize that.
I know, it's a surprise.
I guess it's to get the flip out of here.
Yeah.
You gotta flip out.
We're gonna flip out.
Flip it out.
Alright. Flipping out. Wait, we didn't say when ELR is on. It's on Tuesdays at 7:30 Eastern on the Player 4 P4 Podcast Twitch.
6:30 Central.
7:30 Eastern,
6:30
6:30 Central. Every Tuesday, pretty much. Maybe not next Tuesday. Probably next Tuesday. I have to talk about it with the player who may or may not be there.
So if anyone's like, I don't know if I can keep track of all this, follow us on Twitch, P4 Podcast, and then set notifications. I did it. Did you? Did you do it? I did it.
I didn't, but I'm involved in all 3, so...
No, I'm talking to the listener.
Oh. Thought it was all about me.
Yeah.
Hi,
I'm
listener.
involved in
You
all
look
three,
really
too.
nice today.
Thank you. Alright.
You're welcome, future Tristan.
Future Tristan is future Tristan's problem.
Good night, everyone.
Hashtag good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, Derek.
So creepy.
Hey, listener, you're looking mighty fine today.